There are places we pass by on the side of the road, glowing neon in the midnight fog, standing silent along forgotten highways. Motels. Some say they're just a bed for the night, a brief pause in a journey. But what if I told you that some motels are more than that? That, behind their thin walls and flickering lights, they hold secrets that seep into your dreams and follow you home. Tonight, Sinister Smiles invites you to listen closely, to let the shadows settle around you as we slip into 3 true motel horror stories. Let these tales lull you to sleep, if you dare. The first story comes from a weary traveler named Alex, who was driving cross-country, desperate to make it home before the holidays. The interstate was a ribbon of darkness, and the weather had turned against him. Sheets of rain, wind howling, everything slick and unfriendly. He pulled off at an exit he didn't remember seeing on the map. The sign above the motel blinked erratically. Restful Pines, vacancy. Inside, the night manager was an old woman with clouded eyes and a voice so soft it almost disappeared into the hum of the vending machines. She handed Alex a heavy brass key and pointed down a hallway lined with a threadbare carpet. "Room 112, she said. The room was small and cold, the walls stained with watermarks, but Alex didn't care. He collapsed on the bed, shoes and all, and let exhaustion drag him toward sleep. But the motel wasn't done with him. Sometime after midnight, Alex was awoken by a scratching at the door. Not loud, but insistent. He sat up, his heart stuttering. He listened. Scratch, 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 he called out. "Who's there?" But only the storm answered. He tried to ignore it, but the sound grew louder, more frantic. He got up and looked through the peephole, but saw nothing but the empty hallway. He tried to sleep, but soon the scratching came again. Now from the bathroom, as if something was trying to claw its way out of the drain. The pipes began to groan. The water faucet dripped blood-red rust, and the room seemed to shrink around him. When he finally fell into a restless sleep, he dreamed of hands. Dozens of pale, thin hands, reaching up from beneath the bed, clawing at his ankles, pulling him down into darkness. In the morning, he woke to find deep gouges scratched into the inside of the door, and a smear of muddy footprints leading from the bathroom drain to the foot of his bed. He checked out as quickly as he could, the old woman watching him with a knowing, empty stare. When he looked back at the sign from the road, the name had changed. It now read, "Restful Pines, no vacancy." Alex never found the motel again, no matter how many maps he checked. But sometimes, late at night, when he closes his eyes, he feels the cold hands brush against his skin and hears the slow, patient scratching. The second story is about a couple, Jamie and Tara, who found themselves lost in the desert after their GPS failed. The night was pitch black, the silence broken only by the distant howl of coyotes. Far off the main road, they found a crumbling, sun-bleached motel. The desert rose. The sign buzzed with dying light, and every window was dark. Inside, the air was thick with dust and something else, something rotten and sweet. The front desk was unstaffed, but a bell sat waiting. Jamie rang it, and after a long pause, a man emerged from the shadows. He was too tall, his arms too long, and his eyes never quite met theirs. He gave them a key and a warning. "Stay inside your room after midnight. Don't answer the door, no matter what you hear." They laughed off his words as a local scare tactic. But as midnight approached, Tara grew uneasy. The room was stifling, the walls thin as paper, and outside they could hear things moving, slow, dragging footsteps, and a chorus of whispers that grew louder as the hour crept closer. At exactly midnight, someone knocked on their door. 3 sharp raps. Jamie froze, but Tara, thinking it might be the manager, went to the door. She looked through the peephole and saw nothing but darkness. The knocking came again, this time from the window. The curtains fluttered, and a shadow passed by, tall and thin, arms so long they scraped the ground. The whispers swelled, and the door handle jiggled. Jamie grabbed Tara and pulled her away from the door, heart pounding. They waited, holding their breath, as the footsteps moved away and the whispers faded. The rest of the night passed in a blur of fear and sleeplessness. When dawn finally broke, they found muddy footprints on the outside of the door and long, greasy handprints smeared across the glass. They left without looking back, but as they pulled onto the road, they saw the manager standing outside, his arms stretched impossibly wide, waving goodbye. They never spoke of what happened, but sometimes, when Tara dreams, she hears the whispers, calling her back to the desert rose. Our final story is one that's been whispered about by truckers for decades, a tale of a place known only as the Last Stop. Deep in the mountains, where the fog never lifts and the trees close in tight, there's a motel that's said to appear only to those who are truly lost. Mark was a truck driver, hauling freight through the night, when his rig broke down on a remote stretch of road. With no cell service and a storm rolling in, he followed a narrow path to a glowing sign, the letters flickering. Last Stop Motel. Inside, the lobby was empty, but the walls were covered in old photographs, black and white faces, all staring directly into the lens, all with the same hollow eyes. A bell sat on the counter, and when Mark rang it, a voice answered from the shadows. "Room 7 is ready. Welcome." His room was small and cold, the wallpaper peeling, the bed sagging in the middle. Mark tried to sleep, but the silence pressed in on him, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards. At 3 a.m., someone began knocking on the walls, first softly, then harder, as if desperate to be let in. Mark tried to ignore it, but soon the knocking spread to the ceiling, the floor, until it surrounded him. He got up and opened the door, but the hallway was empty. He looked back at the photographs in the lobby and realized, with a jolt, that one of the faces now looked exactly like him. Same clothes, same tired eyes. He ran back to his room, but the door was gone, replaced by a blank wall. The knocking grew louder, the walls began to bleed, and Mark felt himself being pulled into the darkness. He woke up, panting, in the cab of his truck, the morning sun just beginning to rise. There was no motel, no path, just the endless road. But on his dashboard sat a black and white photograph, his own face, hollow-eyed and expressionless, staring back at him. So, tonight, as you drift off to sleep, remember that motels aren't just a place to rest your head. They're crossroads, thin places, where the veil between worlds wears thin. The next time you find yourself far from home, beneath a buzzing neon sign, ask yourself, who's knocking on your door at midnight? Whose whispers slip beneath the threshold? And when you look in the mirror, will it still be your face staring back? Sleep well, if you can.